video puts you right in the moment as this wicked tornado tore huge trees right out of the ground, took power lines down, leaving a car stuck with nowhere to go. Now, this happened only 4 days ago, permanently destroying homes and businesses. It'll be years before life is back to normal. According to the National Weather Service, winds peaked at about 140 miles per hour. That is as strong as a Category 4 hurricane. Earlier, I spoke with Carla Williamson, who was trapped in the basement of her home. What an ordeal she suffered.
When I turned around, the darkest, scariest black clouds were coming from that way. Those were still there, but it started coming this way. I went in the house because what do people do in Wisconsin? We go out to watch the storm.
Right.
So I ran in the house to get my phone because I was going to come out and take pictures. And that's when the alarm went off that there was a tornado warning.
Had you ever heard that before? I had never heard that here.
Not here. No. Nope. And we've had tornado watches, but never...
Oh, thousands of watches, but so much that I ignored them.
You go out and you're like, where is the storm? Yeah. And for whatever reason, I thought, I'm going to go in the basement. I wasn't scared. I wasn't panicked. On the way through the kitchen, I grabbed my iPad because I thought, well, if I have to sit in the basement, I'm going to play games. Right. And I got down in the basement. I don't think I was in the basement for 2 minutes. There was an office chair down there. I pulled it over into the corner, sat down, and I bet 2 minutes maybe is all I had. And I was watching out the block window, and I could hear hail, and I saw the wind going. And all of a sudden, it was it wasn't the train sound. I think it was just the sound of the wind twisting the house. And
could you see the house get twisted?
No, because it was an instant that the floor dropped. So
the first floor dropped down into the basement.
The whole house dropped. And so I was on the chair. So then I had a Christmas tree that's in a like a bag on wheels, and I had pulled it to me because I thought if something breaks, a window breaks or whatever, I'll protect myself from that.
Well, that was smart.
Well, it was, except who expected my house to fall on me. And so it dropped, and I remember getting down onto my hands and knees because I got off the chair because I think the first time is when I got hit in the head, and I have scratches and a bump on the back of my head, and it went quiet for like a second, and then it hit again, and that's when all heck broke loose. And I thought that the top floor hit the bottom, first floor, and landed on top of me. And when it hit, I thought, because I wasn't under anything, because under my steps I had storage stuff for Christmas and stuff under there. But when the second thing hit, I thought, I need to protect my head. So I was on my knees and I stuck my head under the landing.
That was smart too.
And everything came further down on top of me. It dropped even further.
And this was all within seconds.
In seconds. I had, after the first time the storm hit, or, it happened, I quick dialed my husband because he's living in Ohio right now temporarily at work. He works for KC. So somehow I called him, and as soon as it happened, I hung up. But somehow it went to voicemail, and I can hear him telling somebody he's working with, I don't know, I heard a lot of noise and I heard her scream. But I hung up and I called 911 because I thought, they need to know I'm trapped under here, under my house. They need to know I'm here because nobody is going to know I'm buried under here. And so I was just laying there, and I had no room to move. I was just bent over on my knees. None.
No headroom?
When I was laying there, when I was bent under there, I could turn my head a little bit, and which is not a good thing to do because I could see it. And when I turned, the ceiling was right here. It wasn't touching me. It was right here. And I had 911, this person, I got to find this lady that talked to me because I would be calm, and then I looked, and then I lost it. And she's like, calm down, stay calm, you're going to be fine. We're coming to get you. And I just kept telling her, and I kept thinking, I'm living a movie. You watch like 911 and the dispatchers are like, stay calm, I'm with you, I won't hang up, let's keep talking, and she started asking me questions. I don't remember what they were, but questions like, do I have any kids, do I have pets, all this other kind of stuff just to kind of keep me calm. And when I looked and saw how close the ceiling was to me, and then I panicked again, I remember doing a self-check. I thought, okay, I can breathe. I took a couple deep breaths. I thought I can breathe. I couldn't see anything because it was so dark. And I moved my hands, I moved my feet. I'm like, okay, I can do this. People survive earthquakes 7, 8, 9 days, and they get pulled out. I can do this. She knows I'm here. She's on the phone with me. She just kept saying they couldn't get to me. They couldn't, no roads were passable at all. And so anyway, so we just kept talking, and I actually looked on my phone. I was on the phone with her for 29 minutes.
Wow, 20.
And I kept telling her, I said, how are they going to get this house off for me? Somebody from a block away came down the street and was asking if everybody was okay, and they both said, no, she's in there. Carla's in there. And the house is separated so far from the porch that it's probably about 2 feet maybe. You can see into the basement. That's how far the house is separated and off the foundation. This guy didn't even hesitate. Jumped that, ran through the house, down the steps.
Did you know this guy?
I do not know this guy.
He just jumped off and ran through your house?
Yep. Yep. They just said he's in there, and he went running through there. I heard him yell for me. I started screaming and yelling, and the lady on the 911 said, is somebody there now? And I said, yeah. I said, I don't know who it is. Somebody's here. And she said, then I'm going to get off the phone so I can help somebody else. He came down the stairs, and I can remember hearing like frustrated sounds, like, oh, how am I going to get to her? And I remember like things scraping, and the office chair that I had been on, I knew was right behind me. I could feel it. And he started to move it, and I said, don't move it. I said, I think it's holding up the house.
Holding up the ceiling.
Holding up the ceiling. And he moved it, and he said, it's free. I can get it out. I have to get it out. It's the only way you can back out of here. He moved that out, and on my knees and hands and knees, I had to back out of this area, and I never looked up, so I don't know what the basement looks like. I looked down, I saw water, I saw my shoes in the water. I walked over, I had to step over the freezer door to get there, and when I did see the hot water heater was tipped and the ceiling was leaning on the hot water heater. I don't remember seeing the big chimney that was there, and between the hot water heater and the chimney was our furnace, and when we were kids, we used to be able to run around underneath that little thing. I don't think that furnace was there, because I think the house moved and the furnace stayed. Because when we walked by, I feel like there was a whole lot of space for me to get to the steps. And I stepped on the steps, and they weren't connected on the wall that was by me. They were just hanging there. So I had to walk up the other side. They weren't attached to the landing, and that's when the gentleman in that blue house right there, the 2-story, he came over with his son, and they grabbed me and pulled me up onto the landing, and then we walked through the house and out the front door. And when I stepped out the front door, I turned around because I thought the whole house was down. When I looked at that house, I was like, how is that house still standing? And every day I go over and I look, and I'm learning a little, I can look at pictures. The windows of the house, I had to have a ladder in order to decorate them for Christmas. I can step into the windows.
Because the house dropped down.
So the house, you had the main foundation. This house in 1955 was on the corner of 3rd Street over here. It was where the 3rd Street Diner is. My mom and dad bought the land, put in the basement, and they moved this house. They were given this house. And they moved this house here in 1955. So you had the foundation of the basement, but then there were 4 block, I don't know what they're called, cinder blocks, 4 high. And then the house sat on top of that. The house is now in the basement. My side door is half into the basement. So the cinder blocks were gone, so it dropped below the cinder blocks and then shifted off from the main foundation, thank you, into the basement. And I'm going to do a shout out to Costco and whoever made these shelves, but they're metal shelves 5 high that you can slide those big totes, like those 30-gallon totes in. You don't set them on the shelf, you will hang them. and you can slide them in and out. This whole wall, the whole front of the house, I collect apartment 56 houses, which just breaks my heart. All my Halloween houses. This whole front wall, along this wall, was all of those shelves. And beyond where I was sitting were all my Christmas decorations on those shelves. This house is resting on those shelves. Wow. You can see on the side here, you can see the top of one of the totes, and you can see the top of one of the metal frames. If those, I truly think, well, first of all, I know those saved my life because the house is resting on those. If those fail,
it would have gone all the way down.
This house is going out, and I would have probably, that whole side, I put my head under, and that wall would have come down, and I want to see what it looks like, but I don't want to see what it looks like because I'm scared now, and to actually go, oh my God. And I think because where I was kneeling, when I looked and I could see that shelf sitting there, I actually think that's only the second or third shelf up, because I was kneeling on the ground and I looked and I could see the wall or the roof or whatever on the shelf, which means those shelves were taller than me. So now that it's down here, but I was down here and I had to stay crouched to back out of there. So this is the door, this is the window frame.
The window frame. Where was
so
the
I can step here. It was up here. So I needed a ladder. I could do this to look into my window.
And now it's down here.
And now it's down here. So this is my base. So this is the foundation of the basement. Right. On top of that were 4 cinder block high, and the house was on top of that.
I see some cinder blocks down there.
Yeah.
What door did you come out? I mean, where did you come out of? What?
See this door? You can look through.
That's where you came out of?
No, I came out the front door. But this door right here, not that, that's the door frame.
That's the top of the door.
I think that's the door. Right. But, so you would walk through here and walk into that door. That door is below the landing.
Yeah, the door's right here. The top of the door is about here on me. So that's how far it fell.
The back, you can see it really well in the back. And the back of the house, so if this is the second floor, the house dropped and the whole back of the house bowed out this way. So there was a big deck on the back of the house. You had to go up 5 steps to get to this big deck before you could walk in the kitchen. That's on the ground right now.
It's unbelievable that you're alive. This woman's house completely collapsed on her in the basement. She has very little space, and it's unbelievable that she survived. They take her out, and the only injury she has is from the IV when they took her to the hospital to see if she needed an IV. That's not, I won't tell which hospital.
That's the only bruise.
The only bruise she has when her house falls on her is from the IV. Anyway. People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.